Welcome, everybody, once again to Retirement Unscripted, where we have conversations that are, oddly enough, unscripted about this wonderful time in our life and what we like to think about or plan about looking forward. Let me first introduce our co-conspirators here, Jeff Cornwall, who's down in Panama City Beach, Florida. Say hello, Jeff.
Hey, how are you doing?
And John Fassnacht, who's down there also in Austin, Texas. Say hello, John.
Hello, John.
And I'm Joe Fusco. I'm up here in the land of the ruddy cheeks. Where it is, I won't say what time it is, but it is a time where it's probably not decent to start drinking and it's already dark out. So, as usual, if you've been paying attention or you've watched previous episodes, we have a guest come in and we'll introduce that guest in a minute. But I do just want to say something here before we get going. I was on a jury last week here in Vermont. And
finally got on a jury.
I finally got on a jury, and it was a hung jury.
Oh.
Okay.
Let me guess who the holdout was.
Yeah, well, I wasn't quite Henry Fonda. But I say it's a hung jury because I'd like to point out we never have a hung jury here because we have no standard of reasonable doubt.
True,
right?
that.
Every question works for us. There's no such thing as a wrong answer. So it's important to say
order.
This will never be a hung jury here. Okay. Hey, welcome to our guest today, David Sunderland, who has been, I'm going to round it off, David, and say a friend of mine for 25 years.
Yeah.
And, he is approaching that magical time in life that we argue about whether we should call retirement, but we'll call it retirement again. And David, tell us a little about yourself. Give us a background.
Yeah, so I also am in the frozen tundra of Vermont. I'm a native Vermonter, been here most of my life. Grew up here in Vermont, went to school in Massachusetts, got an engineering degree, and worked here and there, mostly in Vermont. Had a 6-year stint in Southern California, and then came back to Vermont. Got married, and we have 4 children ranging from 24 to 16 right now. And I'm 60 years old and starting to sniff the next chapter.
That's great. I would say that you are not sniffing the next chapter, because what I think makes you as a guest unique here is there is no doubt that you are running headlong into this idea of retirement. It's very uncomplicated. We have a very uncomplicated guest here today. He is. I
don't know what that means. I don't know.
No, he is absolutely sure, 100%. He's running headlong into that day when he can step back and enter that new phase of life. Am I wrong?
Say when the switch switched, it switched.
Yeah. So I have an answer to this question, but I'd love to hear your answer, which is, what do you think your biggest challenge is right now when you think about this idea of retirement?
A couple of things. Of course, there's the financial part. You know, we're in good shape, but maybe not 1,000% good shape. So there's a little bit of that, but also I think with 4 kids, our oldest 24, who lives in Rhode Island. We have one who's with us here in Vermont, one who's still in college and one who's still in high school. So planning is all got to be a little squishy because we don't know where they're going to end up. We don't know where grandkids might be in the future. And, you know, how solid of a plan can you make without really knowing where you could be? Or, you know, you can make a plan, but it's going to change. So all of it kind of comes in plans with air quotes around them, you know? Yeah.
What's pushing you at the age of 60 to want to make this next step?
Well, I tell you, it was a single moment that I had never given it a thought, and I think even just in the last couple of years in lunches with Joe, I think when he was about this point, and I was like, no, I still have a lot to that I want to accomplish before I'm done, and then we took my third daughter. She goes to school in Savannah, Georgia. We took her down for her freshman year, and we got her settled in. And then we went to Hilton Head for just for a couple days, and then revisited her on the way back through and flew home. And it was I thought about that a lot, because it was those couple of days were probably the first time in 20 something years that we didn't have a calendar, we didn't have schedule, we didn't have kids with us. It was just us, and we had nothing to do, and it was a revolutionary kind of moment. I said, I really like this, and it was miserable. It was raining. It wasn't like the perfect 2-day getaway vacation, but waking up and realizing there's nothing on the agenda. There's no expectation. There's no calendar. There's no schedule. There's nobody else to look after. We could just decide what we wanted to do. And I said, maybe this is what retirement is like. And if that's the case, I really want to get here as quick as I possibly can. Yeah. So that's what got me thinking about it. I can say I never really gave much thought to it before that day.
John, that sounds just like your retirement.
Joe or John?
John.
Yeah. No
surprises in your life.
No, so Dave, for me, I have my family is all here in Austin. We're lucky. My wife and I are very blessed and lucky to be here with our family. We have 3 grandkids, and we find ourselves all part of that flow right now. So
yeah,
we're blessed to be here. But it's interesting to hear you share kind of the aha moment, perhaps, is the way I'm kind of hearing it. How does that, or have you even thought about what does that mean in terms of leaving behind what you might leave behind in terms of the work that you do? And,
Yeah, it's a good question. And I think that's one of the unanswered questions for me is, I do think there'll be a period where I don't want to do anything, like zero, like wake up and figure it out for the day. But I do know that time will eventually pass, and I want to do something, and I want to contribute somewhere. And my wife and I have I don't know if they're plans, but at least thoughts or ideas. We've always talked about volunteering for certain organizations here or there, and I think it would be great to have time and the capacity to do that. My wife is. I'm not a tremendous traveler. I don't mind it, but I don't have great aspirations to travel the globe. But my wife does, and so she wants to be able to do that as well while we're young enough to still enjoy it. So there's thoughts around that. But I do think after a period of time, I want to contribute in some way.
Sure.
I think one thing you kind of left something out, that one thing you would like to leave behind is snow.
Well, yeah, exactly. And again, I'm a native Vermonter. I grew up here, and from the day I was born, I don't like the cold. I don't like it. I lived in the desert in Southern California, and I loved it. And eventually came back to Vermont. More for family reasons than anything. My parents were getting older, and my brother was getting married, and things were happening, and I wasn't here for them. And so I came back. but yeah, I mean, getting south and out of the winter, and at least the worst part of the winter, and being able to enjoy being outside and playing golf and those kind of things have a lot of appeal. And not just to me, to my wife as well. She's a native Vermonter. But yeah, we're ready to not be in single digit weather again.
To go be a native someplace else.
Well, yeah. I mean, Florida, we were in Florida last winter just for a week, and it was divine.
It was.
It was wonderful.
Let me just tell you, it is.
We loved it,
Testimonial.
Yeah, we loved it. So I think that will be in the plan.
So, having known you, being your friend, I would say that one thing I take away from our conversations is that if I were to say what your challenge is how do I get there quicker? I think you're really ready, emotionally ready, psychologically ready, right? The boundaries or barriers are more physical or tangible. I mean, I don't think you are struggling in any way with any decision that you would have. If somebody said tomorrow that you could do this, you would do it, correct?
I think so. Yeah, I think so. I mean, maybe a little transition period here and there, but no, if all the lights were green, yeah. And it makes it easier when it's 7 degrees outside. So
Yes.
I just desperately want to go south. So yeah, no, I think so. My wife is younger than me, and so she will have a early and longer retirement. So
she's ready to retire too?
Well, she teaches Spanish in elementary school. And if she could stop at 7th grade, she'd probably work longer. But because it's 8th grade as well, she's ready to go.
Something happens to those children between 7th and 8th grade.
Middle school. Yeah.
There's something genetically altered about 8th grade boys. I think.
It's awful. Yeah.
How she does it is amazing to me, but she does, and she does it really well. But
yeah. We were reminiscing that we had one teacher that just loved teaching 8th grade, and we don't understand to this day why and how. She was a sweet person, but for some reason she was able to manage a classroom full of 8th grade boys.
It's a gift.
It is a gift.
Yeah. It wouldn't be me.
No.
Ever.
No.
Yeah.
No. So she's ready also?
She is. Yeah. I think she's, I kind of wrap my arms around the idea more, I think she's, doesn't want to get sold on it too far and then, without a plan, I think that that's where we're at is.
What does your plan look like?
Well, that's a good question, right? And this is something that Joe and I have talked about. What is the plan? I think the plan for the first couple of months is be warm and see what happens, right? But I think after that, it's contributing back somehow. I mean, I think that now that I'm at this stage, I look back and boy, I've had blessings in my life, one on top of the other. And it does feel selfish in a sense to just say, okay, I'm going to stop now and be done. Right. I mean, I want to do something, obviously, to give something back to people, and maybe make their path a little less bumpy than mine was in places. And if I can help other people out, younger people out, I would be super excited to do that. But I want to have total control over it. I want to be able to turn it on and turn it off, and limit the hours and have enough time to do other things as well. So, yeah.
So, John and Jeff, how do you dealt with this issue of freedom? What is it? Where's that fit for you?
Freedom for me is something I've had to get used to.
Yeah.
I thought I was ready to be free, so to speak, but within 2 weeks of retiring, I was committed full time again to stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and it felt comforting. It wasn't a financial thing.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it never hurts to have more, but it wasn't a requirement. It wasn't necessary. I was told by my folks, you got nothing to worry about, just go. And there was just some comfort. I thought I wanted to be free of schedules and free of routine and free of all that. And I think what I learned about myself is I wanted control of it a little bit more.
Mm-hmm.
I am finding now, several years in, that I'm more and more seeking more of that freedom, so to speak, of just unscheduled time, and I'm learning how to adjust. I was shocked at how hard it was to adjust to that.
Mm.
And I've seen a lot of friends struggle with how to adjust with that time and what to do. And all seem to get busy with stuff, but a lot of times it ends up being stuff that's not very satisfying or not what they really want to do. So I almost think freedom is kind of a myth. People seem to fill their time up, whether it's with golf or volunteering or consulting projects. It's amazing how much people fill up their time, me included. I'm learning how to transition and phase into more and more time just sitting on the back porch reading and doing those things you imagine. But it's taken some adjustment for me.
Yeah, from my perspective, in some ways, my freedom kind of came to me. And I mean it in a sense of when I retired, I have 2 granddaughters and both are dyslexic. And it was right at the time of COVID. And so schools were shut down. And so it was kind of a natural for me and my wife to kind of be proctors and make sure they didn't mess around too much on screen, online. And being dyslexic, that led me into kind of exploring what does that mean and how does that work. And it all ended up with an opportunity to do some work teaching dyslexic kids in the mornings. There's a learning center here in Austin that I go to from 8 to 12 and teaching dyslexic and autistic, Down syndrome kids reading comprehension. I have found that to be very, very satisfying. And then for me, it's my family is here. It's being available to kind of help out with the grandkids with the transportation logistical network. Otherwise, picking them up from school and taking them places, now and again. And also, I've, as you were saying, Dave, looking for something that you want to give back and find purpose with. And I found that with a not-for-profit I'm on the board of. So for me, freedom has kind of meant putting a structure in place that's very satisfying for me.
Isn't it funny that we drift back towards structure when we think we think that we're going to just have this idyllic life where we wake up every morning and just do whatever we want, and so many of us impose structure on that.
Well, it's such a great insight because there's structure. You live for 40 or 50 years under other people's structure that they impose on you. And then there's this idea of structure that you impose on yourself. And that's the goal. It's
I think that's the difference.
Not that you hate structure. It's that I'm the builder of this structure.
That's right. And Dave, like you said, if I ever reach a point with my teaching that I feel like it's not satisfying or I'm not contributing, then it's easy to say goodbye. I don't feel that now. And I feel very fortunate, that, and I think this is really important when you reach this stage, that sense of purpose, that sense of developing, my own development, contributing, and being in an environment where I can contribute. those things are up for me are all kind of checked off. And so I'm in a great place. I'm very blessed. And it is, to your point, Joe, it's just the right amount of structure for me, to where I feel like I'm doing things
Do you
that
still have a calendar?
I keep a calendar for doctor's appointments and my wife.
That calendar tells me when to take my pills.
Yes, those things. But I'm amazed how much I still keep a calendar.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I'm cutting you off, Jeff.
No, go ahead.
Well, the other thing I was going to say is that, as you say, calendar, the other thing I guess that strikes me is I'm finding myself much more involved in reaching out to people that I want to reach out to, and people that I care about, and that, in the past, maybe we haven't had the time to stay connected, or I may have initiated a connection, and we connected, it was great, but it didn't get initiated back. And so I'm finding myself, so when you say calendar, that's on my calendar. I had lunch with a buddy. I had a lunch with a buddy today that I care about. I have lunch with some other folks later in the week that I care about. I stay connected with people I went to graduate school with 1,000 years ago. But these are people that I care about. And part of that, I think, for me, is initiating this. There's a part that says, well, I'm the one doing all the initiating. And it's very easy to get caught up in, zero sum and say, oh, well, they're not initiating back. It's not fair. But that's not the point. The point for me is I care about these people, and we get together. We have a great time. So if it takes me to initiate it, that's okay with me. I've got the time. And then that's my calendar.
Right.
Besides
my calendar includes water volleyball and bocce ball and golf and the coaching I do. When I do some coaching still part time, and business coaching kind of stuff. And so I'm amazed at how comforting I find a calendar. And I thought I thought I'd never have a calendar again. I thought I would just, I would just kind of go with the wind. And it's being someone who doesn't believe in planning a whole lot, it's amazing how much planning I do day to day.
Well, I think the big difference too is like John was saying, it's who controls it. It's not so much whether you have a calendar or not. It's who's in control of the calendar.
100% me.
Be in control of the calendar.
100% me.
I'm okay with structure, even though right now I just don't want anything. But I'm good with structure. I know. I'll want that, but I just want to be in control of it, and I want to be able to turn stuff on and off, and pick and choose what I do for myself, not have somebody else pick and choose what I have to do or am assigned to do. Or
it's funny, when I was a doctoral student, I one of the research studies I did, I was a business student, getting a doctorate in management organization, and one of the first studies I did was of this thing called a free school. John, you may remember those a little bit. And it was this 60s kind of thing where there was no structure and there was no authority. And so in this school, the students who were little children had as much of a voice and control as teachers and parents and everybody else was. That was sort of that idealistic 60s kind of mentality. And what was amazing to me was within 6 months of opening the school, structure started to form. And rather than fight it, people actually kind of got excited about that. And all but a few. There were a few diehard idealistic ones, but almost all the normal everyday participants, parents and stuff, were so relieved to finally have some structure and some rules and some rationality and decisions and things. And it's always stuck with me about how I think part of our nature as people we read about the fact that we're social creatures, that we like living together, but I think it's a lot deeper than that. I think we have hierarchies and roles and rules and all that for a reason, and I think we innately want that and seek that out.
So how do you relate that insight and study to retirement?
Well, just as I was saying, I had always, one of the reasons I didn't like the thought of retiring at one point in my life was because I didn't want to do nothing. I enjoyed building things. I enjoyed starting companies. I enjoyed all that kind of stuff. And I thought that after I was done with that, there would just be an absence of that. And that made me anxious. And I think what that study shows is that was a fallacious view on my part, because it was never going to happen, because we are creatures that seek out structure and routines and things to do. And you look at certainly I can speak to my life. It is a lot more organized and structured than I ever would have imagined retirement being. But Dave, you're right. The big difference is I choose what goes into that structure.
Yeah. And that's where the freedom is in my mind.
That's where the freedom
is. Where the freedom is.
I would add that age makes it easier to say no.
Yeah.
The longer you're retired, the more you wear this new structure like a comfortable sweater, then it gets really easy to not feel like you have to alter your structure to make other people happy.
Well, and I think getting back to John's point, it's also a structure of people that I want to have in my structure, and I want to be a part of my life. And right. Whereas when I was, in business, or when I was the times I was working in the university, I had people imposed on me, and we've talked before about work friends versus real friends, and that, to me, the biggest joy right now is I don't have work friends. All I have is real friends, and they're what I build my structure around.
Mm-hmm. And Dave, the other part that I'll share is a good buddy of mine retired recently, and he deliberately has said that he's going to give himself 3 months to do nothing, and just allow it to come to him, so to speak, whatever that might mean.
That's a great plan.
Yeah, and it's interesting.
I think boredom is good for us.
Well, and I'm not sure it's boredom as much as it is just being quiet and listening, so to speak.
Yeah.
But what's interesting for him is that what he's come to discover is he's always kind of puttered around the garden, and now he's discovered he wants to be a master gardener, which he never thought about. He did not enter into retirement with the thought of, I'm going to pursue a master gardening degree or experience, whatever that is. So it's interesting. There's everything we're saying about structure, but there's, like anything in life, there's a balance point too. And balance point is taking some time to, I won't say contemplate necessarily, but to be quiet and to be silent and listen to see what's coming your way.
Anybody who sells a company, I tell them you need a 6 to 12 month sabbatical.
Wow.
Don't do anything. No, don't commit to any deals. Don't commit to any investments. Don't commit to any consulting. Just, John, as you said, your friend is going to do is just do nothing. And I use that same phrase. It'll come to you what you need to be doing. And Clint, who's the entrepreneur that we had in a previous episode, he's I think about 5 or 6 years into his sabbatical now.
Still thinking about it.
And enjoying that.
Yeah. So there's the parallel there. We exit, we sell our career.
Right.
And we take that sabbatical. I have found that the more I tried to control the building of my own structure, it didn't go as well as just listening and waiting for it to form on its own. Because you cannot anticipate the people you'll meet and the opportunities that you'll get and the relationships. And so sometimes it gets built organically. and it's better than you could have imagined or planned yourself. So
Yeah.
It's just like I tell people with a business plan that, that you're a fool if you think the business is going to look like you planned. A business plan is just a way of kind of getting your head around starting it. And then then you'll figure out what it's really going to be. And I think retirement's the same thing. It's all those opportunities.
So Dave, what are your fears at this point? If you saw yourself 2 years out or 3 years out, and you're still thinking about it, still trying to structure in your own mind, what are you afraid of?
I don't know that I'm necessarily afraid of it or anything. I think it's just more the unknown. You and I talked about, I described it, the movie Field of Dreams, where, James Earl Jones sticks his hand out in the corn row, and his arm disappears, but he doesn't dare to go any further, until he just walks in, not knowing really what's out there, what's out in the corn. And I think it's a little bit like that, obviously I like to have a plan. Whether I follow it or not is different, but I like to have a plan. And I just don't really know what that plan will look like yet. It will involve sunshine and beaches. It will not involve snow and ice. But I guess more than anything, I guess it really is around family, and where does our kids are just discovering, what their professional lives might look like, and they could end up anywhere, so I think anything that we plan will have to be a little open-ended, because, if they all end up in Missouri and there's 20 kids there, grandkids there, we're probably going to work that into the plan somewhere. So it's a little bit of feeling it out, and seeing where it goes. I think there'll be a facet to it that involves giving back, but there'll be another facet of just having fun and traveling and spending time together. I got married when I was 35 and my wife was 26, and we had kids pretty quickly because I wasn't a spring chicken by any means at that point. So we didn't really have the time together that a lot of newlyweds have before kids come, that we can hang out together and spend time together, and so we missed that part because we were into kids 18 months after we got married. So now, maybe we flip that around and we have that period together after.
The only thing I caution based on what you said, Dave, is one of my wise old mentors said, there's a danger of paralysis from analysis.
And I'm as guilty as anybody has ever been.
You're an engineer.
I am.
I wasn't going to say that, but you kind of opened up the door on that one. So,
you read me already, Jeff.
I'd hate to have you back on this podcast 10 years from now, and you're still kind of trying to figure out the plan and figuring out what it is,
It bothers me. It bothers my nature to not know all of what's on the other side of the corn row.
And you won't, and you can't.
Right.
You don't know our stories that well, but all of us have had incredible surprises, shall we say? That we never could have planned for or thought about, and it's just life doesn't stop when you retire at all. It keeps going, and just as there's things we have to adjust to and adapt to and work around all the way through life, those things just continue. You're just not working for somebody getting a paycheck while those things happen anymore.
Right.
I would add the flywheel, to use an engineering term, right?
Yes.
The flywheel is when you really start to accept that there's no analysis needed.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right? That when you can let go of that, and that's a vestige that you bring from, especially as professional men, there are four of us here, you bring that vestige from your 40-year life in working, right? The vestige of, I am going to analyze and have a plan, and there's a spreadsheet involved. And the minute you kind of really just open your palm and let go, and that falls away, things start happening.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
that's where the fun begins, really.
Mhm.
Right. If you've set the guardrails in the right place, I'll be clear about that. It's not free love or a free school run by little kids, right?
Right.
You have
Eighth graders.
you have boundary
Right.
conditions. You have boundary conditions, but if you're comfortable with the boundary conditions, which are very easy to set, then I think the fun starts when you really let go of the need to plan.
When you say that, Joe, I'm thinking this is a long time ago. Maybe it was in the book In Search of Excellence, but they were talking about planning, and the concept was loose tight.
Yep.
So you plan, but you have it loose enough to be able to move quick based on circumstances that come up, and being able to be responsive. And that's, I guess, what I hear you talk about, Jeff.
Yeah.
You
can't
don't just walk out, yeah, but you got a sense of direction, but you're not so wrapped up in it that you are able to maneuver depending on what may
100%.
occur.
So our emerging motto here is everybody has a plan until you get punched in the face.
Yep.
Mike Tyson, right?
By the great philosopher Mike Tyson.
That's right.
So, wow, fantastic. So this has really been an interesting discussion because I don't think we've really tackled this idea of structure before.
Mhm.
And this has been very enlightening, I think. We've talked through our own answers to that question, which is fascinating. And I hope anybody who's watching really gets that value of understanding what the relationship to structure will be in your life in this next period of life. Thoughts?
100% true. It's just a different
Absolutely,
structure. It's one that you decide.
Yeah.
And the people who are sad that I know in retirement, and there are more than I'd like to think,
Mhm.
are the ones who never grasped that and just sort of stopped. And a lot of people, more people do that than I would have imagined do that.
Mhm.
And so, I think the plan needs to be to address and take advantage of the opportunities and challenges that we don't know what they're going to be, but they're going to be there, and we need to seize them and go with them and not just stop.
And Jeff, I think that maybe that's another opportunity that occurs in this time, is that, like Joe, when you were describing planning, that's kind of an external kind of a thing. But part of the planning of all this too is kind of coming to know yourself even better, and having that kind of internal development that goes with this. I love this concept called elders. So as we get old, hopefully we get wise. And we do get wise, because like Joe says, you get punched in the face, you learn from that.
What?
You get hit by the bus, you learn from that. And so there's something valuable that we have that you don't have at a young age. There's something valuable that we have at this point in time in our lives that, really kind of factors into how you approach these kinds of things.
And you're not just defining, so much of who we are is defined by what we do.
Mhm.
And that what we do goes away. And it's just an exciting, for me, this is one of the most exciting things is I really get to focus on kind of the internal me and where that might take me and the relationships it may create. And I'm blown away and shocked every day about where that's been taking me.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Dave, any takeaways for you?
Well, I guess still the conundrum around, I've heard in several different places, when you retire, you got to have a plan. Don't retire without a plan, but not too much of a plan, right? So, because I don't want too much of a plan, and if you wait for the perfect plan, you'll still be working when you're 80 or something, So, So there's that balance, right? And obviously the numbers have to work. The financial part's got to work. I think, when you get to that point and you pay more attention to people that are retiring just ahead of you, So what are their fears going in, and what are they? You see them in a year later. Well, what's it like? Oh, I'm busier than I've ever been. Yeah, well, okay, but is it what you thought it would be? Is it what you wanted it to be? All those kind of questions, right? And I think the common theme is people are worried, A, they're going to run out of money, and 2, they're going to be bored. And for the most part, I haven't talked to anybody who said they were bored. I mean, everybody has the potential to fill the time with something that occupies them, at the very least occupies them, But I think finding the things that challenge me and that I feel like I'm giving back, that's an important part of it for me. And I don't think I'll struggle to find that. It's just I don't know what it is right now.
You'll find it, and it's okay if you don't know it right away. If it's like to Jeff's point, if it's 6 months from now, that is okay. It is okay for your plan to be no plan for 6 months or 3 months or a week, whatever it is. We're the land of no wrong answers here. So whatever, it's basically whatever works for you. This is
everybody's a winner.
This is the great secret of this.
There's no wrong answers in the cornfield.
Right. There
you go. I love that image. That's a great image.
Yeah. And I just want to say, careful around people who say they're busier than ever, because that's a bad energy sometimes.
Yeah, it is.
Right? They're not telling the truth. They're not telling the truth. They're still dragging that sense from the rest of the world, the outside world, that says you're nothing unless you're busy.
To me, that's all those people I knew in work who I knew spent twice as much time at work than they needed to get the job done that they got done.
You got half as much done.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Interesting observation.
Yeah. Right. So what have we learned? Hey, freedom, great. Structure, only what you want, and it's okay to be bored. Thank you, Dave, for joining our little group here with this conversation. I think we learned something. I hope people watching learned something.
Well, I certainly learned something too, so I appreciate your time. I'll be watching the podcast along with others. And
it was great meeting you, Dave.
Yeah, nice to meet you guys too.
It's possible you will come back and tell us what life without snow is like. So I would love to hear that.
I want to see you with a straw hat.
I'll go see Jeff and we'll be shoulder to shoulder.
There it is.
Absolutely.
So have a great evening, everybody.
All right.
Take care, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Take care. Bye.